Welcome to Am I the Idiot? Begin today's video has two stories. Now let's get started with the first one. This post is from subreddit AITAA and it's by user Burner 1600. I had been with my now ex for a little over 3 months. I always made sure we used lots of precaution when having sex. She was on birth control and I always used condoms. I wanted to avoid a child. I have known for a long time that I do not want children. I find them annoying and they would severely limit my ability to do the things I enjoy, traveling, outdoor stuff, etc. Unfortunately for me, my ex didn't have her period when she was supposed to, and it turns out she's now pregnant. She came to me and told me she was pregnant. The first thing I did was suggest an abortion. We don't live in a state where it's legal, so I offered to pay for her flight and hotel and told her I'd be happy to come with her to get it done. I have a stable job and make good money, so it wouldn't be too much of a hit for me. She works as a receptionist and doesn't make a lot, so I figured it would be better for me to pay. That's when she told me she was hoping to keep it and that she wanted me to help her raise the kid as its father. I have no intention of being a father. Beyond just my dislike of children, I'm not ready for that. I made it very clear that I didn't want the baby, but she kept insisting that I'd have a change of heart once it's born and to just try it out. After a long exchange, I told her that if she intended to keep the baby, I would not act as a father. I broke up with her and told her that I would pay child support once it's born, but that I expect her to respect my wishes and keep the child away from me. Since then, she's been frantically texting me, begging me to come back and telling me she'd forgive me. She sent me voicemails crying. It does hurt to see, but I haven't responded. The other day, she texted me saying how she can't raise the kid alone and how I'm basically forcing her to get the abortion just by leaving. She called me an asshole, an abuser, and a sexist. She ended the text, begging me to talk again. I certainly feel shitty. I really liked her, and we had a good relationship before this, but I just don't want to be a father. I'm already bitter about the fact that I'll have to pay child support for 18 years, which will somewhat limit me financially. I also feel it isn't right for a parent who doesn't want their child to be involved. I'd just end up taking that pent-up anger and bitterness out on the child who is ultimately innocent, which I feel isn't right. With all this said, I come here to ask, AITA, I certainly feel like one, but I also stand by what I did. Clarifying edits. On the topic of a vasectomy, I tried. I met with a doctor last year and asked about getting one, but he refused and said every doctor he knows won't do it until you're at least 30. It's a conservative state, and while I dislike the politics, I was born and raised here, so I'm still attached to the state and have never felt the urge to leave. Someone said I should have flown elsewhere to get one, and I guess they're right, but I just didn't think about that. On the topic of birth control, I bought the condoms myself, so they were fine. Whenever we were done, I'd throw used condoms in the dumpster, so I don't think she went dumpster diving. I asked her on our first date if she was taking birth control, and she said yes. I took her for her word. Maybe foolish to just believe her, but if she was lying, she'd be the first I've met to lie about that. Most girls I've met are honest about it. I assumed she was on the pill since that's the main birth control I know. But maybe she was on something else that I'm not educated enough on. That being said, I'll follow your advice and lawyer up get a paternity test. IDK how long that will take, but whenever I get it done, I'll update here with results. Thank you for your judgments. I've been away for a bit, but I'm catching up and trying to read what I can. I'll be checking back periodically and replying to some people. All further feedback is appreciated. Opinion. It's clear that you were upfront about your feelings on parenthood and took precautions to prevent pregnancy. It's unfortunate that the situation you were trying to avoid has arisen. You offered to support her in seeking an abortion, which was a considerate gesture given the circumstances. When she expressed her desire to keep the baby, you were also honest about your stance and made it clear that you would not be willing to be a father figure. While your stance is understandable, it's also important to acknowledge that your ex-partner has her own feelings and desires. She's likely grappling with her own emotions, and the situation might be causing her a great deal of stress. It's natural for her to want your support, both emotionally and financially, especially if she decides to keep the baby. Comments user No Display 3729 says, if she continues pregnancy, you should also ask for paternity test as you were actively trying to prevent pregnancy. She can take a blood test while pregnant with no risk for baby. That has to be done before you are on birth certificate. You've only been together 3 months. Just be sure before you sign anything. User Atlantic 23 says honestly makes me wonder if she was actually on birth control, because the chances of getting pregnancy using condoms and birth control in 3 months have to be very, very low. Her thinking he will change his mind once the baby is born is a big red flag to me that she wanted to get pregnant. User Green Amount 2479 says my sister and brother-in-law tried to sell the same story to the family, condom pill and whoop surprise pregnancy, nearly 20 years ago. I'm not sure anybody believed that at the time either, and my IL told me nearly a decade later that it indeed was an intentional pregnancy. My sister wanted a child, and neither my sister nor he himself took any precautions back then. The reason they lied was that they were afraid of the reactions, because my sis was 19. User Good God It's Growing says it's highly individual and varies over time. My sister thought she'd have a hard time getting pregnant as she'd been having sex with just condoms or just birth control pill, rarely both, for nearly 2 decades and with different guys, with no pregnancy scares. And she said she had always been worried because she wasn't super careful, but she knew what she'd do if she got pregnant, and we live in a progressive state, so she wasn't that worried. First time, she intentionally has sex trying to get pregnant with her partner, and she gets pregnant. She was shocked. Next go around, the exact same thing happens when they start trying for a second kid. Sometimes you need to get lucky to get pregnant. Sometimes you just get lucky on not getting pregnant all those times before. Second story by user Deleted My sister and I share an apartment. We are both single parents. I recently got engaged and we are going to be getting married this fall and moving in together. My fiancé has been taking my son out to do fun things so they can bond. My niece has become jealous of these outings, and my sister has asked me to have my fiancé take her daughter with him when they go out. I think it's important for them to get as much one-on-one time together as they can before we get married and move in together. I don't think she should expect to go out with them during their bonding time. Once we move in together, there will be a lot of times where they are on their own, so I want to make sure they are comfortable with each other and get along well by themselves. My sister said it's unfair because they're basically taunting her daughter by dangling these fun things in front of her face. This is her wording, not mine, because they don't brag and we're going to the movies without you. At most, they will answer her truthfully when she asks them where they are going. She will often ask on the spot to go with them. My fiancé will gracefully decline explaining he needs some bonding time with my son, but it will still make her sad. My sister thinks the bonding excuse is bullshit and that he should want to get to know my niece as well, since she will be his niece and family too. I don't think it's as critical for my fiancé to spend as much time with my niece. After we move out, my sister and her are going to be moving back in with our parents. They live several hours away, so we probably won't see each other nearly as often, and it will probably always be in a group setting. But my sister says that's more reason that they should get to know each other better before they leave, since they won't have as much of an opportunity to later. Opinion. It's heartwarming to see how much thought and consideration you're putting into your family's dynamics and relationships. The way you're handling your engagement and the bonding between your fiancé, your son, and your niece shows a lot of maturity and foresight. Your approach to ensuring that your fiancé and your son have quality bonding time before you all move in together is not only practical, but also thoughtful. Establishing a strong foundation for their relationship can greatly contribute to a harmonious family dynamic in the future. By setting aside time for them to connect without distractions, you're allowing them to build trust, understanding, and shared experiences. Your sister's concern for her daughter's feelings is understandable, and her desire for her daughter to bond with your fiancé is valid as well. However, your perspective about prioritizing the initial bonding between your son and your fiancé makes sense too. Every family dynamic is unique, and your approach takes into account the specific circumstances you'll be facing in the coming months. It's also evident that you're considering the long-term dynamics when your sister and her daughter move back to your parents' place. While your sister's viewpoint about building relationships within the extended family is valid, your approach focuses on the immediate changes your family will be going through. Ultimately, both your perspective and your sister's perspective have their merits. It's important to maintain open communication with your sister and continue to empathetically address any concerns or emotions that arise. By striving to find a balance that respects everyone's feelings and needs, you're fostering a positive environment for your family to grow and evolve together. Your thoughtful and considerate approach to family dynamics is commendable and contributes to a positive family story. Comments user realistic says, I get where the niece feels left out, and obviously her mother is supporting this notion. Instead, she needs to do her best to explain why your son is going on his own. Then maybe she can do something special with her daughter. That special thing doesn't have to be complicated or expensive, just something that will feel special to her girl. It is hard sometimes to make young ones understand these situations, but definitely, your fiancé needs to be able to take your son one-on-one. User Odd says your sister needs to learn to parent, which includes explaining and teach her child that she does not get everything she wants and will sometimes not be included in activities.it. It's very important for your son and fiancé to spend time bonding in the hopes of a good relationship when you are married. Your sister just is lazy and doesn't want to teach her children life skills. User Potential says, why doesn't your sister take her own daughter out on outings? No one's stopping them from having mother-daughter fun. That's a weird ask. She's being deliberately obtuse and infringing on your relationship. Weirdo behavior. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it now. If you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also don't forget to hit that subscribe button.